My name is Brian Clark. I live in Mahwah, New Jersey, in the same home I've lived in for 37 years. On 9/11, I was working at Eurobrokers, which occupied the entire 84th floor of the South Tower in the World Trade Center complex. On 9/11, at 8:46 in the morning, next door in the North Tower, there was a tremendous explosion. I, in fact, thought there was damage upstairs in our building because right outside my window was swirling flames 84 floors in the air. So we began to move people off our floor. I had volunteered after 1993 bombing to be one of the fire marshals on our floor. And at 9:02, I was talking to Bobby Call, a colleague of mine who had been down the stairs a few floors when he heard the announcement that our building was secure. So he came back up to our 84th floor, and in the midst of him telling me that, at 9:03, our building got rocked. The second plane hit the south side of the South Tower, and in a split second, our floor just fell apart. Everything fell out of the ceiling, construction dust everywhere. There was no flames or smoke on our floor, but we were severely rocked. The building, in fact, gave the sensation that it swayed to the west, just a half oscillation of maybe 6 feet. That was the sensation. And when it came back to vertical, I sort of snapped to attention, grabbed the flashlight that I had put in my pocket 17 minutes earlier, and gathered a group of about 6 people on our floor, and we headed into the central core. We found our way to the stairway A. There were 3 fire escape stairways, but we went down stairway A, and we only went down 3 floors, from 84 to 81, when a heavy-set woman was coming up the stairs, and she insisted that none of us go any lower. She just stood in front of me and blocked me as I led this snake down the stairway. And she said, "Well, you've got to go higher. There's flames down below. There's smoke. We've got to get fresh air." And I was distracted by a banging noise inside the 81st floor. And as I strained to listen, I heard a stranger's muffled voice screaming. And I finally determined what they were saying. And it was, "Help, help, I'm buried." And Ron and I were able to push the drywall back a little bit and snuck sideways through a crack in the wall as I went onto the 81st floor through this opening in the wall. All my colleagues were turning around, and they went up with the heavy-set woman, and they all died that day. Halfway to this stranger's voice on this dark, smoky floor, with my flashlight leading the way, Ron, right beside me, was overcome with smoke, and he left me. He went back to the stairs, and he, in fact, went up. Now, he later escaped and lived, but I continued on to this stranger's voice, and finally, when I got to them, I saw his hand waving through a hole in the wall, if you like, down near floor level. And when my light finally got to him, he screamed, "Hallelujah, I've been saved." I started to remove debris, and we realized that we were separated strangely by a wall. So I stood up on a desk and looked down over the wall. And after a moment or two, I insisted that the only way out for this stranger was to come up and over the wall. So I hooked my arm somehow underneath him. He missed them the first time. Second time it worked. Up and over the wall he came. We fell down on my back. He gave me a big kiss, and I said, "Well, I'm Brian." He said, "I'm Stanley. We'll be brothers for life." And we stood up, dusting ourselves off, and with my flashlight, we made our way back to the stairwell. And at that point, I instinctively just pointed my flashlight down the smoky stairway and thought to myself, I want to try. I want to see what those flames are about. Let's give it a shot, kind of thing. And Stanley and I dug our way through debris down a few floors. On the 78th floor, we passed a cracked wall where the flames were kind of licking through the cracks on the other side. And by the time we dug our way down to about the 74th floor, suddenly we were in what I consider to be almost normal conditions. The lights were on, fresh air was coming from below. There was a little bit of water cascading underfoot down the stairway, but at the 74th floor, I felt like we're out of this. We're going to be okay. Little did we know what was going to come in the next few minutes. Continuing on down a few floors, the only person we saw on the stairway was a fellow named Jose Marrero, and Jose was a coworker of mine walking up the stairs. And I said, "Jose, where are you going? What are you doing?" He said, I can hear Dave Vera up above. Jose was carrying a walkie-talkie, as was Dave Vera, and Dave had started down with me and was in fact leading that other group back up the stairs. And Jose and Dave were in communication on their walkie-talkies. They were both on our tech staff and on our fire safety team. So using the walkie-talkies, they could communicate to each other. And I said, well, I'm getting this fellow from Fuji Bank out. That's where Stanley worked. And he said, well, I'm going up to help Dave. I'll be okay. And up Jose went. And that was the last anybody saw of him. He died that day. We continued on down on the 44th floor. We went in and saw a security guard who was wondering if we had telephones, which we did not have. The security guard was saying, well, I'll stay with this man. And there was a badly injured man, massive head wounds and back wounds, lying on the floor. How he got those injuries, I don't know. How he got to the 44th floor, I don't know. But Stanley tended to the man while I talked to the security guard a bit. And then the decision was, well, we'll go back to the stairs and make a phone call first chance we get to tell a medic or the EMS, whoever, to come to the 44th floor and help this man. On the 31st floor, we entered into Oppenheimer's space in their conference room, and we found their telephones were working in the conference room. I called my wife at home. Stanley called his wife's office to try and get in touch with her, and I called the 911 emergency number to tell them about the man on 44. Back to the stairs, down, down, down. About the 15th floor, I remember saying to Stanley, hey, slow down a bit. You know, we were starting to accelerate. I said, I just don't want to be coming in on crutches tomorrow in my commute. And again, little did we know what was about to transpire. We got to the ground floor and left the building probably about 4 minutes to 10, ran a couple of blocks south down toward Trinity Church, and Stanley turned around and he looked back at the tower we'd just come out of and he said, you know, I think that tower could come down. And I said, there's no way, that's a steel structure, you know, it's just carpets and furniture burning. And in the midst of that sentence, it started to implode and collapse on itself. It was like we were invited to watch. It was surreal. We ran a couple of blocks to 42 Broadway when the white wave of guck, if you like, caught up to us. And as we dove into that building, the wave passed the building. Stanley and I talked for 45 minutes in that lobby, got to know each other. He gave me his personal business card, so I had a way of getting back in touch with him. We came out of that building at about 10:45, 45 minutes after our building had collapsed, and 15 minutes after the North Tower had collapsed, although we didn't know it had collapsed. We got separated, strangely. We don't know how we were separated, but suddenly I was alone, wondering if there really was a Stanley. And I reached in my pocket and indeed pulled out the business card that he gave me, so I knew I could get back in touch with him. I caught a ferry on the East River. They diverted the ferries from the World Financial Center around to the East River, and I got a ferry to Jersey City. I was the last one on the ferry, so I was the first one off. Ran down the dock at 11:15. It's now an hour and 15 minutes after our building had collapsed, and called home. And I must confess that I was oblivious to the pain they were going through at home. I was somewhat removed from all of that, knowing that I was fine, and I didn't realize what agony they were going through at home. And when I phoned, needless to say, there was great celebration at home that Brian was okay. From Jersey City, I walked north to Hoboken, got a train at noon, and I was home in my driveway with a horn blaring as I arrived home just after 1 o'clock. Big family love fest on the front lawn with friends and neighbors and family. It was a great, great moment. The last 10 years have been, the emotion I've been left with is one of sadness. I haven't expressed much anger, if any, but the sadness lingers. I've just been given a gift, and I take no credit for it, that I just don't dwell on the past. I don't think about 9/11 every day. When I'm asked to tell my story, I tell it. But on a normal day, I don't think about it. My head hits the pillow at night, I fall asleep. I've had no nightmares about 9/11. Going the other direction, as I look into the future, you cannot count on what you plan. Your future is uncertain. It just unfolds. Things happen that you can't plan for. So I don't worry about that because it's going to take care of itself somehow. It's nice to have plans, but you can't count on those plans for certainty. Well, if you don't dwell on the past and you don't worry about the future, it leaves you with the present. And that's really where I live. Every day is a great day. And I just know from 9/11 how precious life is. And that's what I tell people is just really appreciate your life. Take a deep breath and understand who you are and that you are capable of doing great things. That's the message I leave with people, I hope.